भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्ट्वागुंसत्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। In three mantras, the first khanda of the third Mundaka of this Mundaka Upanishad presented before us the well-known metaphor of two birds on the same tree. The first bird represents Jiva, the second bird represents Ishvara, individual soul and God. The tree is no other than the body of every one of us. And in the elevated interpretation of Advaita Vedanta, the apparently two actually are one, supported and justified by the last line of the last mantra of the set of three, Paramam Samyam Upaiti. The first bird attains absolute identity with the second bird. The dividing line between man and God vanishes. God alone remains. God alone is the truth, is understood. Picking up where we left, we now take the fourth mantra, Prano Hyesha Sarva Bhutairvibhati Vijanan Vidvan Bhavate Nativadi Atma Kridah Atma Ratihi Kriyavan Esha Brahma Vidam Varishtaha. This is a praise of that one supreme truth, which in the erroneous perception avidya bhumi appears as two. This supreme truth is called prana. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a line, pranasya prana, satyasya satyam, pranasya pranaha. That is, the very word prana, which ordinarily represents the vital energy in every individual soul, is representative of the supreme truth, which is the prana of all pranas. Why go to Brihadaranyaka? We have that kind of expression in the Kenopanishad that is studied by a lot of people in their early classes in Vedanta studies. Vachoha vacham, shrotrasya shrotram, manaso manaha. It is the speech of speech, it is the mind of mind, it is the eyes of eyes. What is meant in that rather poetic expression is, it is that life principle which reflects as countless life principles in the jivatmas. Therefore, pranasya pranaha or prananam prana, just as the other expression in Brihadaranyaka is satyasya satyam. There may be many truths in life, You and I learn so many truths in different subjects, truths of different matters. We talk about the truth of this matter, the truth of that issue, the truth of that whole episode. What is the truth of this event? In every investigation in USA, every now and then there are the shootings. Again, there was some shooting where 8 people were killed. So police investigate. Who did it? What is the truth of this matter? Did the guy who shot people in some mall or some shopping center, did he have no sense? Was he a fanatic? Did he belong to some terrorist group? This is investigated. Then you come upon the truth of that particular matter. That is also Satyam. Then there is Satyam in science, Satyam in history, Satyam in economics. Now a new investigation is sought by some citizen of India. He has gone to the court appealing to the court that it be found out whether in Varanasi, where there stands a mosque called Gyanvapi, whether at that place originally there was a Hindu temple, whether there was a Shiva temple exactly there where today Gyanvapi mosque stands. And apparently that case is accepted by the court and there will be some investigation that will go on and some truth will come out. So truths are many, but Brahadaranyaka Upanishad says, Satyasya Satyam. There is a certain truth above all these truths, in front of which all these other truths lose their significance. In the Advaita Vedanta, we say the ultimate truth of everything there is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Brahma alone is truth. Rest of it all is, call it false, call it relative reality. So prana is thus the supreme truth. So the one word which alone emerges as the truth and the miserable bird vanishes into the real bird. The miserable bird is asat, is an appearance only. Or you want finally the whole matter in the simplest language, all that Vedanta says is our sorrow is asat, our suffering is not real. If we inquire, suffering disappears like mist upon rise of the sun. Prano hi esha sarvabhutaihi vibhati. Bhutaihi here means sarvabhuta rupena, in the form of an ant and an elephant, in the form of man and gods in heavens. Sarvabhutaihi, sarvabhuta rupena vibhati, shines. And as any one of us, Vijanan, comes to know this ultimate truth, Vidwan, then we truly are wise, na bhavati ativadi. Bhavate nativadi. We then no more become or remain judgmental, calling somebody small, calling somebody unfit, calling somebody with some bad words, saying we are better or this is better, that is better. All this judgmentalism, making someone high and someone else low, that is the characteristic of unwise people. Wise people look at all as divine. Ativadi, therefore, is creating differences where there isn't one. Atma Kridaha Atmaratihi, like Sthita Prajna Lakshana of Gita would say, Atmanyev Atmana Tushtaha. Here, Atma Kridaha, sporting in oneself, Atmaratihi, enjoying in oneself, Kriyavan, full of the highest kind of action. We will see in Shānkara Bhāshya where Acharya says, Kriya here is nowhere near karma, which makes room for duality. This Kriya is Adhyayana Kriya, Jnana Kriya, Chintana Kriya, Manana Kriya. For someone who is at a height of wisdom, will no more indulge in activities which have the division between the means and the end. Someone with higher wisdom is only interested in reflecting upon that truth where there is no division between the means and the end. Means sadhana and the end sadhya are one of the most primary expressions of ignorance. And when ignorance takes a back seat, we see there is one truth only which appears as everything. So Kriyavan somewhere else could mean dynamic. On the plane of social service, Kriyavan, oh, this person has built so many schools and hospitals and orphanages and all kinds of institutions, this, that. God bless him, God bless her. But on the higher level, yasya jnanamayam tapaha, those who remain in the purest understanding of the supreme truth are the greatest doers. Outwardly, they may appear to be non doers, but they are the greatest doers. When someone asked Sri Ramana Maharshi, why don't you go and do something in the world rather than sitting here on this rock? Maharshi counter questioned that visitor. How do you know I am not doing anything? What makes you think I am not doing anything? In the eyes of the visitor, Maharshi was sitting idle, but Maharshi hinted at the apparent idleness actually being a source of tremendous inspiration, a great transforming presence, a great power that actually inspires people to do very many good things. Vivekananda did not enter politics, though during his time India was under British rule. He did not spend even one day taking part in some political movement, but countless were the political freedom fighters who drew inspiration from Vivekananda. Among spiritual teachers also, there are many who give so many lectures. All their life they are on platforms. Common man thinks that they are the people who are actually contributing to the promotion of spiritual wisdom. They are also in India and I'm sure elsewhere in the world, we have always recognized there have been sages who sat silently and they had a transforming presence. There is a speaker, there is an orator who may speak on some scripture, and 1,000 people listen and are impressed, but we are not sure whether anyone is deeply transformed. They may be changed to an extent, but there were sages who sit silently and they have a transforming presence. Each plays his own role that is different. So Kriya doesn't have to mean the gross karma. Yesha Brahma Vidam Varishta. Someone with his highest wisdom he is the best among knowers of Brahman. Because among knowers of Brahman there are some who know the Shastra well, but who may not as yet enjoy from within. Though those who know Shastra well may enjoy some trophies and awards that may come to them. Someone who knows Upanishads, commentaries upon them by Shankara and other acharyas, may really be happy one day when the federal government, the state government honors him or her with some special title. Then is she Atmarati or is she award Rati? Is she trophy Rati? Rati means enjoying. Obviously, that person is trophy Rati, enjoying trophies. Right. Let's see how Adi Shankara explains this. Kincha further, yoyam pranasya pranaha paraha ishvaraha. The mantra calls the supreme truth prana. Adi Shankara adds, this is the prana of all pranas. Like in the mafia world, where in India we use the word gunda. So there are many gundas in cities. And then there is a top gunda. So you may call him, he is the gunda of all gundas. That means he is the top gunda. Like this, the ultimate life principle, Ishvaraha, Prakritaha, Sarva Bhutaihi, that means Sarvaihi Bhutaihi Brahmadi Stamba Paryantaihi. Starting with Chaturmukha Brahma up to stump of a tree. Itham Bhuta Lakshane Tratiya. This is an observation from grammar point of view. While it is said Sarva Bhutaihi, Bhutaihi is Tritiya Vibhakti Bahuvachana, but this Tritiya Vibhakti is not in the sense of using them as an instrument. When you say Hastena Likami, I write with my hand, there Hastena is Karana Rupena, but here Itham Bhuta, that is, this God appears as all living beings, not accompanied by or using them while himself stands apart. No, he himself is the Bhutas. He himself is all the living beings. That's called Itham Bhuta Lakshana Tritiya. That is one of the usages of the third case. Sarva Bhutastaha, Sarvatma San Ityartha. And so that being, every living being means he is the soul, he is the self of all living beings. He is the self of an ant, he is the self of an elephant. Vibhati vividam dipyate. Evam sarvabhutastam yas sakshad atma bhavena ahamasmiti vijanan. When one knows one's own truth as that one truth which alone is in this universe, then what happens to that person, lady or gentleman? It is said, Vakhyata matrena, all this happens by right understanding of Upanishadic statement, then na bhavate, that is Arsha Prayoga in modern Sanskrit, na bhavati ityetat. Kim? Na bhavati ativadi. Ativadi means atitya sarvananyan vaditum shilamasyeti ativadi. So always trying to, as I earlier gave the meaning, compare and call this as high and that is low. Or ativadi can also mean in arguments trying to beat somebody, just to show I am more knowledgeable than her, I am no more knowledgeable than him, and so on. That kind of competitiveness, that kind of wanting to prove oneself as superior arises in the first place from one's own ignorance, from one's own imagining oneself to be an individual. When one knows oneself to be the self of all, why would one feel jealous of anyone whereby one wants to beat that other person? That would not happen at all. Na ativadi. It is said about Sadashiva Brahmendra in South India that he was argumentative and people stopped coming to his guru's ashram because this disciple Sadashiva would be somewhere near the entrance gate, and any scholar comes to the ashram, the Sadashiva would somehow engage them in an argument and defeat that person. So those people felt so bad. They came to meet the guru of Sadashiva, but this Sadashiva would not spare them. And then one day the guru got so sore with Sadashiva and said to him, "Why do you talk so much? Just remain quiet." And Sadashiva took it so seriously, he just became totally silent and then went roaming in that silence, observing silence. And he got enlightened, became Sadashiva Brahmendra. He is a well known poet too. So earlier he was Ativadi. Na bhavati Ativadi. It is one thing to argue, but another to be argumentative for the sake of argument or for some purpose which is futile. One just wants to go on saying something. Sometimes when the job is over also somebody wants to explain why he had done this, why he did not do that, wasting others' time rather than moving on. Then that is also ativada. So all kinds of immodest behavior stops when there is the rise of the supreme wisdom. Yastu evam sakshad atmanam pranasya pranam vidvan ativadi sa na bhavati ityartha. Vidwan here means vijanati. When one knows the Atma, then one doesn't talk unnecessarily. Earlier, was it not said in this very Upanishad? Anya vacho vimunchata. Just let go of all useless talk. Sarvam yada atma eva nanyadatti iti drashtam tada kimhi asau atitya vadet. How would that be possible at all when someone sees sarvam atma eva? So somebody, the apparent other person, really there is no other at all. Then why would one argue? For what? Only those who suffer from some insecurity and they are very concerned about their not being misunderstood. They want to explain. You know, last week when I told you such and such thing, what actually I meant was, the other person has forgotten what last week, where, what did you say? But this person is agitated whether he was misunderstood. Actually, he is forgotten now, but because of his agitations, he wants to. So, you and I should examine whenever we talk unnecessarily, is it because of there is some suppressed emotions, some hurt, some embarrassment, some thought that people did not hear me properly, I better go clarify to them and so on. Is there an unnecessary amount of panic? One must let go of that kind of panic, fear. So, kim asau atitya vadet yasya tu aparamanya drishtamasti tad atitya vadati. When there is something other, then there is possibility of argument, comparison. Ayam tu vidwan na atmanah anyat pashyati, na anyat shrunoti, na anyat vijanati, ataha nati vadati. This is a well-known principle of Advaita Vedanta that all negativities rise when there is an imagination of another. And then if the other is going ahead of us, we feel insecure. If the other so-called other is behind us, we feel proud. So to feel proud, to feel high, to feel low is all possible in the first place when there are two. When there are no other, there's only one, no such negativity. Kincha, coming to second half of the mantra, Atma Kridaha, Krida is sport, Krida is play, all his play. The word especially refers to using some external object. Now, lot of youngsters are into all kinds of video games, something called PUBG. It is banned in many countries. In India also they have banned PUBG, P-U-B, then capital G, not 3G or 4G, PUBG. And young children have committed suicide, though I have not understood how they can go to that extent while playing a video game. Just last week, a young boy, maybe 14-year-old, committed suicide, was found dead in Mangaluru of Karnataka. And the police say that though PUBG is banned, this boy somehow got a what we call pirated version and was playing that PUBG in his smartphone. And finally, he brought his own death. Anyway, video games, all kinds of external support is taken. That is Krida. Whereas the next word, Atma Ratihi, is reveling in something inside. Maybe certain beautiful contemplation. You imagine you are in a beautiful place. You are at Lal Bagh in Bangalore in December, morning 8 a.m. The weather is like air conditioned. You are walking through the botanical gardens called Lal Bagh, and you are imagining. So inside, you are not really gone there. So visualize. So inwardly, without going there outwardly. So Acharya Shankara says, Putra Dharadishu Atma Krida, if there are sons, daughters, wives, husbands, these are external. But Atma Ratihi means, Ratihi is Ramanam, reveling, Yasya Saha, Bahya Sadhana Nirapeksha. Ratistu Sadhana Nirapeksha. Bahya Vishaya Priti Matram. It could be poetry. It could be sattvic contemplation on God also with duality. But this mantra talks about the highest point where there is non-duality. So, by using two words, Atma Kridaha, Atma Ratihi, the mantra says, this person does not depend on anything outside or subtler things inside like thought and visualization, doesn't depend on anything. In his or her true nature, he or she has all the happiness. Now, a little grammar again comes. In the original mantra, Atma Kridaha, Atma Ratihi, Kriyavan is written. In some versions, maybe some books which some of you have, Atma Ratihi and Kriyavan could be written together without a visarga. Atma Rati Kriyavan. Adi Shankara says, Samasa Pate, if you take Atmarati Kriyavan without a Visarga, Atmarati he is Visarga, then it's acceptable, but without doing that, Atmarati itself means that as Bahuvrihi, or Atmarati Kriyavan, Van is called Matu Pratyaya. That also is another way of bringing out that meaning. So, Van, Dhanavan is one who has money. So Kriyavan. So that is Matu Pratyaya and Bahuvrihi. While one of them can achieve this sense of someone whose enjoyment is within oneself, why use both? So one of them would be excess, atirichyate. Before that, as we had said, Kriya is explained by Shankara. This Kriya is of the highest order. Jnana Kriya, Jnana or Gyan. When you go to a contemplative height, that is also a magnificent action. Do not imagine action is always something visible, concrete, by hands. Many people misuse this kind of observations, they say, yeah, yeah, that's why nowadays I don't do anything physically. If people are lifting a table, I don't give them a hand of help because I am on a higher level. They say that, but be doubly sure. Many people who talk like that are lazy fellows. When others are lifting tables, arranging chairs, or after a function, putting chairs back at their places, or all kinds of physical actions, this person thinks he is on a higher level, he may not be. He may be lazy, lethargic. Then, alas, it is not right for him. He better roll up his sleeves and do some work. It is one in a million who goes to true contemplative life. If someone is really free of tamas, free of lethargy, free of laziness, and is engaged in noble thoughts, then the scriptural science does endorse, yeah, that person doesn't have to do anything. Lord Krishna himself says, Naiva tasya kritenartho na kriteneha kaschana. He doesn't have to do anything. So jnana, dhyana, vairagya. True vairagya is great action. Therefore in Gita, chapter 4, verse 18, we have that mind-boggling shloka. Karmani akarma yapashet, akarmani cha karma yaha. As our angle of view changes, we see what appears to be action in this world could sometimes be inaction. And what appears to be inaction from a distance, sometimes, not always, could be the highest form of action. Therefore, appearances are deceptive. Thus, the first half is explained, and then Atmarati Atma Krida, second half also is explained in this paragraph. Adi Shankara was especially emphatic on the highest vairagya. He was bent upon freeing mankind from their last traces of attachment to ego and ego prompted action. Whenever he criticizes karma and upasana, for heaven's sake, don't imagine that he was against Veda Purva. He was a custodian of entire Vedas. All the karmas, Agnihotradi, and upasanas of the Vedas were dear to him. But in the context of Brahmajnana, he would not allow mixing. Those who may be one in a million, who have the Vairagya, should clearly see that the chapter of karma and upasana is over for me. I don't have to labor anymore in that sadhana sadhya vibhaga. I must rather stay in the understanding of the undivided self. Once one allows even a little space for karma buddhi, kartrutva buddhi, there comes about a division. The self gets divided. The self itself is the doer, the self itself is the object of any action without one realizing what is happening. Whereas on the higher plane, Brahma eva karta, Brahma eva karma, Brahma eva karanam, Brahma eva adhishtanam, Brahma eva apadanam, Brahma eva sampradhanam. There are those six karakas in the Vibhakti language. Kartra karaka, karma karaka, karana karaka, sampradhana karaka, apadana karaka, and then adhishtana karaka. Six out of the seven vibhaktis represent seven components of a multifarious activity. A cat drinks milk. There are two sides to the story there. The cat is kartru and milk is karma. My daughter writes a letter with her new pen. With her pen, pen is the karana karaka. And my son, meanwhile, climbs the mango tree and plucks a fruit from the tree. So from the tree, you see, my son is plucking the fruit from the tree. So that is also one karaka. And in my house today, we have lot of furniture. In my house. That puts house in what is called adhisthana karaka. Whereas the wisdom of the Supreme Self is one where karakas vanish. And that is best brought out in the Gita in the 24th shloka of chapter 4. Brahmarpanam brahmahavihi brahmagnau brahmanahutam brahmaivatena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. Brahma alone is the kartra, is the karma, is the karana, is the sampradana, is the apadana, is the adhisthana in this way. So it is it is of interest, it is of greatest interest to Adi Shankara to convey that there is a higher plane. And in this mantra, when Kriyavan came, there were commentators at his time, and there will be even now, who would say, look, Upanishad is emphasizing Kriya. So whatever Vedanta you may study, please don't stop your Agnihotra, or please don't stop in modern times, some secular activities. No matter how high you are in the Vedanta, please do some social service daily. They make social service a requirement. Vedanta is not against social service, but Vedanta would say, in the highest wisdom, social service may be done, no harm. Janaka and others perhaps did even after self-knowledge, but it's no more a requirement. You cannot say to some enlightened person, I don't see him doing any social service. His wisdom is flawed, his wisdom is incomplete. That Vedanta would not permit. Because karma is not a necessity, the karma as we generally understand. But karma khandis would not agree. So he says a few words. There's not much to be said actually. Let's go quickly on it. Kechit tu. Tu means on the other hand, kechit. Some people Agnihotradi karma brahma vidyayoho samuchayartham icchanti. They are very desirous that this mantra be interpreted samuchaya, carrying together, samutchaya, taking them together. What? On one hand, Brahma Vidya, the highest wisdom, on the other, Agnihotra, the karma. Karma and Jnana can walk hand in hand. Should walk hand in hand, they would say. Ichanti means they want it that way. To say can walk is also all right, but to say they should walk hand in hand is injustice to the science. Yesha Brahmavidam Varishta Ityanena Mukhyartha Vachanena Virudyate. Shankara says, if even a trace of karma were combined with highest jnana, then the last line would not have said Brahmavidam Varishta. That is Mukhyartha Vachana. But Brahmavidam Varishta would get things done without moving a finger. He has as we use the expression, transforming presence. He has a transforming state of consciousness about him that does everything, that gets everything done. Nahi bahya kriyavan, someone who is so emphatic, so insistent upon external activity, bahya kriyavan, atma kridaha nahi bhavitum shaktaha, atma ratihi nahi bhavitum shaktaha, bahya kriya vinivritto hi atma krido bhavati. So once more, let me clarify. Adi Shankara is not against external activities, but he is against our attachment to external activities. He is against our attachment to kartrutva. It's like somebody says, I want enlightenment, but I want to remain the father of my children. That identity. Biologically, you are father, of course. Once they were born to you, you will never cease to be the father. But your psychological identification, you want to say, I am Brahman and I am father of my children. No. When you understand you are Brahman, you are being the father of your 5 children, is in a secondary sense, it loses its validity in the strict sense of the term. Bahakriya Atmakridayo Virodha. Nahi Tamaprakashayor Yugapad Ekatra Sthitihi Sambhavati. Darkness and light cannot stay together. Tasmas Asat Pralapitam Eva Etat. This Pralapitam, Pralapa, all this talk is Asat. What talk? Jnana Karma Samuchaya Pratipadanam. Proposing that Jnana and Karma, not Pustaka Jnana, the ultimate Advaita Jnana. Akartra Jnana and Kartritva Buddhi. I am a non-doer, but don't you think I did that job very well? If somebody says, it's a contradiction. If you are a non-doer, then don't ask somebody whether you did something very well. If you have woken up from the dream, don't ask, did I not run so well? Where? What? Which race? In the dream. The dream is now known to be false. So you should neither feel proud if you ran well in your dream, nor feel ashamed if you fell down after 10 steps. You should laugh at both. In your dream, whether you ran well or fell down, are both a matter of laughter. The fact is, you did not run at all. You were very much on the bed. Like that, Advaita Jnana is to completely identify with the Akartra Atma, and Kartratva Buddhi and Karma go together. If King Janaka did karma, inwardly he knew he was not doing. So he was anchored in a kartritva only, but outwardly action could take place. But these karma kandis are not like King Janaka. They actually are attached to karma. And that attachment is a matter of debate here. Anya vacho vimunchata, sannyasa yogat, both these were in the um, earlier mantras of this Mundaka Upanishad itself. Tasmad ayameva yaha kriyavan. So the word kriya has nothing to do with bahya kriya. It is adhyayana, study, contemplate, meditate, and stay. You may stay an hour, 2 hours in loving contemplation on God. That is okay. But bahya kriya, building a house or buying, selling, etc., and carrying that thought, I did a good buy. Now, I am richer, and so on. That strengthens the ego process. Ayameva kriyavan yo jnana dhyanadi kriyavan abhinnartha maryadaha sannyasi. Therefore, this calls for great renunciation. One is a sannyasi then, and the complex compound is abhinnartha maryada. This artha, that is, there is a certain science here, and that science has its own maryada, its own boundaries, its own, lines. Up to here you may go, not further. Maryada means that kind of boundary line. And here is a wise person, lady or man, who does not break those boundaries. Bhinna means break. Abhinna means he does not break those boundaries of the science. In other words, he is in line with the supreme science. If somebody says, I am enlightened, but nobody runs as fast as I do. I even now take part in athletics. I am fast runner. So that is binna. You broke the science or you violated the basic principle. What's that principle? You can't be a non-doer as well as a doer. If you say I am a fast runner, you became a doer. Brahmanishtaha Brahmavidam Sarvesham Varishtaha Pradhanaha. In this way, each mantra has so much of significance. Please do not be impatient that this is taking a lot of time. In the Upanishadic study, it is not the quantity, it is not how many mantras we cover, and over how many periods and so on. It is all about understanding the important truths as they are. And sometimes we may take a little more time, especially when we pick up some expressions and phrases of the profound commentaries by Adi Shankaracharya. I actually speed up a little. Even after that, some of those samasas, compounds, like this word abhinnartha maryadaha, is a very profound expression, very profound construction. Is my understanding in violation with the science of Brahma Vidya? That is a question. If the way I see things doesn't tally with the science of Brahma Vidya, then I am Bhinnartha Maryada. Whereas the way I see things, the way I conduct myself, the way I behave, the way I respond to praise or insult, the way I respond to disagreement or agreement, suppose is in line with that Brahma Vidya, which is a science, which has its maryadas, then I am abhinnartha maryada. So such a person is a true sannyasi. It's very fascinating and penetrating on the part of Adi Shankara to come out with some unique samasas. Om Namah Paramarishibhyo Namah Paramarishibhya